Okay, so this I suppose will answer sort of the question about the races of Haemon. Obviously, there isn't so much, the player characters do not have a race; they have a tribe. Uh, Obviously, the name of the game being tribes and all, sort of obvious. I think it's kind of obvious. So, I like those are the nine tribes. In brackets, there is the I put the what an individual of the particular tribe is called. So, a member of the Bauman clan tribe is called a Bauman. A member of Kemidak tribe is called a Kemidak. A member of Galaga tribe is called a Galagus. A member of Kobaki tribe is called Kobayinus or Kobaginus, depending on how you want to pronounce, obviously. A member of Masadir tribe is called Masadinus. Uh, a member of Noakis tribe is called a Noakian. Well, actually, those last tribes. So, anyway, I'll be going over the tribes, what sort of tribe they are, and also about the details about their so-called home world if they have one have one. So, and I'll be going through this in alphabetical order. So first is the Bowman tribe, and their home world is called Bowland, the planet. Uh, let's see, what about it? So yeah, the planet, their home world, is one of it's a planet that is um, Earth-like. Uh, it was discovered to be naturally similar to Earth. Atmosphere being close to similar, very close to the same atmosphere as Earth. Maybe some small differences in the composition of the atmosphere, and with uh, a biosphere, similar, that has similar, know, organic life forms that have DNA and so on. Life that was made of cells and let's see, and obviously the liquid water and whatnot. Earth-like garden planet, so to speak, when it was discovered, and with small amount of terraforming, and obviously the world was discovered again. The Poland world was discovered during the conglomerate era by the conglomeration, and obviously the conglomeration then terraformed the world to be perfect for human habitation. And let's see. And it was originally established as an the colony on Bowland was originally by the conglomeration. The colony was established to be an industrial colony because Bowland has a lot of the world has both the planet itself and the star system it's located in have a lot of rich ore. It's rich in heavy metals of all different kinds, including amidium to some extent. Uh, uh, and obviously, since the colony grew up, it also needed agriculture. So, and the world is very mountainous. Uh, Only one third of the surface of Bauland is actually ocean. So, mm, uh, which means that unlike on Earth, when two-thirds of the planet's surface is actually land instead of ocean, it's kind of the reverse of uh, Earth, that the oceans are surrounded by land rather than the continents being surrounded by ocean. Uh, and due to this, most of the liquid water on the planet is, since the planet is very mountainous and mm, it has, so most of the liquid water is actually uh, is rivers and lakes, and obviously some parts of the world are, it's hard to come by for come by uh, liquid water. Mm. In the current era of the tribes, the world is inhabited by 5 billion people, and it's the Bauman tribe, and the Bauland home world is essentially still, an heavy, emphasis is on industrialism, you could say, I suppose. Uh, and Bauman, the tribe and the world, they produce a lot of, for instance, most spacecraft within the tribes. Even spacecraft used by other tribes are usually manufactured by the strong industry of Bauland and Bauman tribe. Uh, Now, the people of the tribe, they are known as excellent diplomats, very industrious, and as very industrious workers, and also for daring exploration. Actually, I'll bring up the map a bit there. So yeah, you can see Bauland on the map there. So yeah. Actually, maybe I'll bring up the. So yeah, actually, the Bauman clan is one of those tribe is one of those that have, beyond their home world, they have several colonies beyond their home world, and uh, the total population of the Bauman tribe is 9 billion. The 5 billion of which live on the home world, and the rest are living in the colonies or all around the Bauman space. Uh, So again, they are, daring explorers. Uh, Most people of the Bauman tribe do grow up in the densely populated and mechanized worlds of Bauland, Goliath Beta, and Barthold. Uh, the all the space colonies and colonies on um, remote wilderness worlds, they serve the needs of the heavy industry of the tribe. Let's see, is there something? Bowmen are actually, bowmen, I suppose, is the plural of bowman. Anyway, they are mm, tall and stout. Uh, they tend to have light skin, though again, it's kind of depends on. Again, we are even with among Bowman, eugenics is a thing that exists. So a lot of time, the skin color of an individual among Bowman is actually based on what kind of um purpose, uh, sort of purpose the person has been bred for, so to speak. Well, actually, yes, have been, let's say, well, bred for. So, for instance, if they are actually bred for, for instance, space work, they usually have darker skin because darker skin holds many features that make a person more, capable of actually working in space. So having a darker skin is useful for space work. Uh, of course, since more than half of the people do live on the home world of Bauland, many of them do have light skin because, again, living on a planet, they don't need that dark of a skin, depending, of course, where. But even with even in the equator of the Bauland world, the radiation that one gets exposed isn't that tense. So even in the equator, you can survive with a lighter skin, especially if and because again, Poland. Um, well, actually, that's something I might point out. The tribes have established a system of evaluating a civilization based on their technological advancement level. Uh, let's see. Uh, go. So, uh, civilization level 0 is primitive, which uh, is basically any pre-industrial world, a world that is technologically pre-industrial is considered a primitive world. Then civilization level 1 is industrial world that has no capability for independent interstellar travel. So mm, that's called undeveloped, or perhaps developing world is one that is industrial but doesn't have, isn't capable of independent interstellar travel. Then there is civilization level 2 is low uh, a low development world of low technological development, which is they meet most standards for spacefaring civilization, but or spacefaring culture, and it's either a civilization level or culture level, depending on which term you want to use. Of course, civilization level is actually, sort of the way most drives people view it. Anyway, so civilization level 2, which is considered a low level civilization, or low development, low technological development, is that it meets most criteria for spacefaring civilization or culture, but it is in some ways lacking. Then the civilization level 3 is the so-called ordinary level, which is that it meets all the criteria for a uh, for spacefaring civilization, capable of interstellar travel, and it can produce the necessary infrastructure for interstellar travel itself. And most technologies it can develop independently with resources controlled by that civilization. Then there's civilization level 4, which is advanced, um, which is they are more self-reliant than ordinary civilization level, which means they have less need for trade. The or the trade they engage mostly is within the civilization itself, not outside the civilization. And overall, the civilization is more wealthier than an ordinary civilization. Then there is civilization level 5, which is a high development civilization, which is again more self-reliant, and civilization level 5, highly technologically developed society has in everyday use has or has brought into everyday use technologies that are more of a luxury in less developed civilizations. Technologies that, for instance, for instance, uh, uh, uni worlds or universal neurosynaptic immersion simulations and virtual spaces are kind of commonplace within highly technologically developed civilization, whereas uh, with lower development, they are kind of a very much a luxury thing and very expensive within those societies. Whereas with civilization level 5, it's already sort of commonplace, uh, mm, very accessible even to the lowest caste of society. Then there is civilization level 6, which is called the Singularity Civilization, which means that the technology, most tribe within the tribes, none of the tribes actually are singularity level. The conglomeration of colonies was a singularity level society, civilization, which means that they they again pretty much every individual within the civilization has access to uh, for instance, they had far gates which enabled pretty much anyone who could any individual in the society to travel between star systems with regular with traveling between star systems is pretty much the same as in modern day traveling from traveling from one country to another is in modern day within singularity society it would be pretty much the same or even easier depending on between which for instance traveling between some major worlds would be pretty much the same as traveling between cities in the same country. And then there is civilization level X, which is up, aber, what's the word? Aberration, aberrant civilization, somehow outside the development trajectory of human civilization. So, for instance, alien civilizations are aberrant civilizations, civilization level X. So that in mind, Bauman tribe is overall, especially the home world, is considered to be civilization 4, which is advanced civilization, not quite high civilization. So, for instance, uni environments are very limited. There, for instance, Bauland world doesn't have global uni space. It has isolated uni virtual spaces, but not a global universal neurosynaptic immersion space. That's Bauman class. So they are basically you can already tell from the name. This kind of reflects the game being Heimat being a Finnish role playing game. It kind of reflects the Finnish mindset. So obviously Bauman are sort of like the Germans of the tribes, except with outside outward ethnic appearance isn't the well it's again Bauman still being advanced society they have access to eugenics. Proactive eugenics is pretty much a standard technology among them with Bauman tribe. So most people are made for purpose essentially. Uh, so their skin colors and eye colors and whatnot is usually very much determines what they are supposed to be doing during their life. Of course, the higher up caste again, they have slightly different priorities than the lower caste. For instance, servant caste people are definitely made for some purpose, whereas again the appearance is usually with Bauman. It's more about a purpose of the appearance, or skin color and eye color, and actually the eye being a sensory thing. Again, its build is more uh, about what function it has rather than some silly uh, goals, like having blue eyes or something. I know, going full Godwin here. Anyway, so so that's the Bowen tribe. Uh, let's see. Next is the Kemitek tribe. And yeah, let's see. Well, the most notable thing about the Chemitex is that they are civilization level 5, high civilization. So they actually have like, um, first of all, let's go their home world, because their home world is a bit different, and their history is quite interesting. So again, with Bowman, they were actually more like, they are more a people than, whereas, let's see, first of all, their Gemitech home world is Geminor. Geminor. Uh, uh, Let me just bring up the map again. This map has only the home worlds, so damn, damn it. Let me just blow up the map a bit. So Geminor, yeah, is kind of out of the way. So and Geminor isn't well. It's actually a very different kind of world. First of all, it's not actually. First of all, the star of the star system of Geminor, it's not like our sun. The star system is the star is, it's not a star that is that that what's it called in sci-fi, main sequence star, meaning that it's not, a star that can actually usually support, or the planets within the star system usually cannot. The star won't support life, and the homeworld of the Kemitek tribe in Geminor, the planet is, first of all, is it? Yeah, it's a planet orbiting the star, but the planet is it's inhabitable. At least the surface of the planet is inhabitable to any kind of life. The colony of the Gemintex is actually a subterranean colony. It's established under the surface, quite a bit under the surface of the planet. And obviously, the colony is pretty much entirely artificial, built. And originally, the colony wasn't even meant to be, that much of a the in conglomerate era, the colony of Geminor was actually a scientific installation, just a scientific installation, a long-term installation that engaged, it was um, well, it was a home to a few scientists who actually made their home in the uh, world, but mostly it was, a place where scientists came during the conglomerate era. Scientists came to do research pretty much out of the just, out of the way, uh, and obviously, and after the collapse, uh, the colony, the Geminor was populated by scientists and their families. In case of those that had actually made Geminor their home, and the installation was sort of a colony for them. So in the collapse, obviously, uh, again, Geminor was kind of out of the way during conglomerate era, which means that they didn't have a Fargate. The only way to travel to Geminor and back, the rest of the conglomeration was, by a interstellar uh, craft, capable of faster than light speeds and whatnot. So uh, uh, that's that's the origin of the Gemitech tribe and the colony of Geminor. The planet is actually its gravity is something like I don't remember exactly what it was. It's around something like between, if memory serves, between 70 and 60 and 75% of Earth gravity. And yeah, among tribes, gravity is what level of gravity you are in is expressed in percentage. So 100% would be the normal gravity, 1g gravity, or what we would recognize as 1g gravity. Again, it's actually defined as within that gravity, the acceleration speed is, um, 10 meters per second is the acceleration of, again, it's, expressed in that way. Anyway, so what? So again, yeah, gravity is expressed as a function of speed because that's essentially what gravity is. Yeah, so that's where the people of Gemitech descend from, and obviously Geminor having been Gemitech or Gemitech, I don't know how you want to pronounce the name. Geminor being a scientific installation, obviously they had access to a lot of, uh, so when they had to become independent, they obviously used relied heavily on science for some odd reason, science being what it is. And obviously a lot of people in the colony being, scientists. Uh, so they had, their resources both in people and, you know, equipment to actually uh, to use science essentially as their main tool of survival in the cataclysm that was the collapse. And let's see. And with Chemitech, obviously, uh, the colony was originally populated by uh, people of various ethnic backgrounds from the conglomeration of colonies. And obviously, with Chemitechs, actually, them being civilization level 5, which is high, they everyone in Gemitech society is reproduced eugenically. Well, pretty much everyone in Gemitech society is produced eugenically and through artificial insemination and artificial uh, and they are then incubated to infancy in artificial wombs, and obviously them being the whole society being very scientifically oriented, their education system reflects this, uh, and obviously with them having being very proactively eugenic society, obviously every individual is essentially is made for purpose, including the highest caste and the lowest caste are very precisely made for purpose, and then their education and training is very much uh, for purpose, or they are trained for specific purposes, obviously. uh, I basically Chemitech society is actually it's not any any it's not reflective of any human society that exists in real world, unlike many other tribes. The Chemitech society is more like the Vulcans from Star Trek, uh, basically. And for instance, in the campaign, you have there are two characters of Chemitech tribe. One is Mertin, the undead technomancer, and then there's Amiel, who is of a lineage that actually is in their proactive eugenics. They have very particular um, how should I say it? Preferences for appearance. The Brightman family is one of the many families that have this, you could say, almost a fetish for well, they like the appearance of the fantasy elf, which is pointed ears, large slanted almond shaped eyes, the face that is kind of triangular but simultaneously quite round. Essentially having very neatness features with every member, with both men and women, and so on. And obviously other things that the fantasy elf has is wide tense muscle, muscle density being quite a bit higher, uh, even though not having bulky muscles, but having very tense muscles, and so on and so forth is the the for instance, and other families, for instance, some other families in Chemitech society, their preferences for appearance are also drawn from fantasy genres. For instance, some actually prefer the fantasy orc appearance, and some prefer the fantasy dwarf appearance, or what have you. And obviously, then there's the skin color is usually depending on what purpose the individual is supposed to serve. For instance, if they are, someone who is going to be working in space, they usually have some darker skin to, or some skin color. Their skin color usually is dependent on, how much their skin is supposed to provide protection against different forms of radiation when working in space. So that's the Chemitech tribe. Um Obviously, the mentality of a Chemitech is, again, they are kind of, well, again, very Vulcan. So they're kind of, you could say, somewhat aloof, and they are highly, far more rational than, well, they do have also, they do have, strong, quite strong emotions, but they prefer to be, prefer rational thinking over, being emotionally driven. Uh, though again, that actually leaves them sort of vulnerable to uh, strong emotional drives, sort of. Um, mm, uh, what else? Yeah. With the society of Kemitech being so very sort of, well, advanced, the for instance, fads are things that often, well, go viral, so to speak. So a fad, you know, or the society can uh, have a fad uh, for some social phenomenon for a few months, and then the fad fades and some other viral fad comes along and becomes a society-wide thing. So and of course other people of other tribes see the Chemidex as being somewhat shallow, because Chemidec people don't, they are viewed as being less, spiritual because of their orientation towards uh, science and reality rather than fictional and you know fictional narratives. So they are viewed by other tribes as being somewhat shallow and uh, poor in spirit, I suppose, is a way of putting it. Uh, Even by tribes such as Bauman, who are not, particularly, again, a spiritual tribe themselves, but uh, are more secular tribe. Even Bauman find the Kemidec tribe as being slightly, a bit, somewhat spiritually or emotionally void people. Okay, so that's the Kemitek tribe, I suppose. Yeah. And yeah, usually Kemiteks can be, recognized by, their appearance being clearly human, and but still, it's a weirdly exotic appearance. Okay, so that was Kemitek. Next is the Kalaga tribe. And Kalaka, individual of Kalaka tribe being called Kalagats, a Kalagas. And yeah, so the Kalaka tribe are, well, they are descendants of, first of all, the Kalaka tribe doesn't have a home world. They are space nomads. They live in. They do have conclaves among on the home worlds and of other tribes, uh, or not necessarily in the home worlds, but in the star systems of other tribes. They have conclaves, usually some sort of space colonies. Um, and obviously they live or mostly live within their own space caravans that are usually made of uh, a few large spacecrafts, and then many smaller spacecrafts that are either well the usually the largest spacecraft of a Galactus or Galactus caravan is are some sort of faster than or called hyper raft, which means that uh, other spacecraft can uh, get a lift. A spacecraft that doesn't have hyperdrive. The ability to travel faster than light. Those spacecraft can, get on board the large hyper raft, and then the hyper raft can transport the other spacecraft in hyperspace. That's uh, usual structure of a space caravan. Uh, that the smaller ship attach themselves, dock with the larger craft, so that they are stable, and then the larger craft travels in hyperspace, does the hyper jump. Uh, and yeah, most of the tribe members of Kalaka tribe, most Kalakas have some dark skin because they live in space, so their skin is again most of them it is made to be very it it protects from a wide variety of radiation. So, and usually that results in uh, darker skin colors. Mm, let's see. Yeah, skin color ranges from uh, uh, reddish brown to near black. So, yeah. Um, of course, some skin colors have shade of some sort of or some shade of blue sometimes, depending on what kind of radiation the skin is supposed to protect against. Also, notable thing about the most members of Kalagas tribe have, when they are young, their hair color is some dark color, but once they start aging, uh, their hair color changes very early on to become lighter, and somewhere around what was it about around 40 years of age their hair has already become with most individuals their hair has become already completely white. Is And that's with most individuals within the tribe. Obviously, there are exceptions to all rules when considering the whole tribe. Uh, no, around 30 years of age, their hair have turned white around. Mm, Obviously, the Kalakas uh, being space nomads, their attire is usually very practical rather than decorative. Uh, their decorations are usually uh, some forms of, you know, they usually decorate their skin with tattoos, uh, or ritual scarring, and uh, and also with some you know, jewelry, piercings, and whatnot is the usual decoration. Unlike, for instance, Gemitex usually actually decorate their themselves with attire rather than with any body modifications. But with the Calicus, their uh, attire needs to be functional rather than decorative. So the Calicus usually then decorate themselves with body modifications rather than attire. Uh, and for instance, jewelry is usually piercings rather than, you know, anything that's yeah, you know, removable jewelry. All right. The Kalaka tribe does have some semi-permanent spaceports around the known space that are unknown to other tribes, and which the Kalakas actually keep secret very, uh, very. Uh, how should I say? Uh, Very prejudice. Well, with let's say extreme prejudice. Uh, you know, because they are, you know, safe havens for the tribe uh, in you know, a space, in the known space that is mostly again the other tribes making claims on, you know, the known space, uh, and obviously their port, their safe havens usually are, you know, within space that other tribes consider to be their space, uh, uh, or, you know, under the control of some other tribes. So that's one of the reasons why they are very keen at keeping their safe havens secret. So yeah, and obviously this is the Galactus tribe is supposed to be, you know, black people. Uh, Mostly, I'm guessing, you know, the them being space nomads, you know, living on ships, you know, kind of reminds me of, you know, Caribbean people, you know, modern Caribbean people, you know, being, you know, sort of brings to mind modern Caribbean people. Uh, I'm again guessing that is what has been in the minds of the game developers. All right, then the next tribe is the Kobaki tribe, members of which are called Copaginos or Copachinos. Uh, so yeah, the Copachinos are descendants uh, uh, of people from the Northeast Asia of Earth. You know, Japan and Korea, and Taiwan and so on and so forth, and northeastern China people, well, mostly from Japanese and Korean culture. They That is where the Kobaki tribe originate from. Uh, and the Kobaki tribe is one of those tribes that actually they are they have a tribe-wide preference for appearance. So they are actually they are one of those tribes that are, for instance, their skin color is more about appearance rather than function, and their other features are more about maintaining a uh, ethnic distinction rather than um, breeding for function. Uh, let's see, and yeah, the Kopaki tribe is their home world is Kyoto, spelled with a D, not T. Kyoto, and it's the main. It's a space colony, and the main habitat of Kyoto is a artificial space island that has a population of 10 million. Uh, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that the Kalaka tribe, their civilization level is 3, which is the ordinary civilization level. But obviously, them being space nomads and interacting with other tribes very much, essentially, the one Kalaka's conclave, for instance, among Gemidex would be more civilization level 5 than 3. Uh, but on the overall level of the Calacan tribe, civilization level is civilization level 3, which is the ordinary for spacefaring people. For Kobaki, their civilization level is 5, which is the highly technologically developed society. The thing that Kobaki are particularly, uh, uh, which is particularly commonplace within Kobaki society, is artificial intelligence. More specific, obviously, not autonomic artificial intelligence, which is illegal and techno taboo, but artificially intelligent software is very widespread within Kobaki society, and they have quite a few robots for different tasks, built for different tasks that are you have artificially intelligent software. And obviously, modern day, the artificially intelligent software would be what modern day in the field of artificial intelligence in modern day would be called artificial general intelligence, is what artificially intelligent software of the tribes is. Uh, yeah, and important thing about Kopaki is that they don't actually have a single colony that is established on a planet that has Earth-like atmosphere. So all the atmosphere that Kopaki tribe has is artificially produced atmosphere. So again, that's one of the aspects of Kopaki tribe. And even though most Kopaki are ectomorphs being the let's say sort of subspecies of human that is evolved to live in very low gravity environment. Even though Kopaki are mostly ectomorphs, they usually, even though ectomorphs are usually very tall, Kopaki tend to be pretty normal in height, somewhere between, I'm going to use centigrades here, so, or, the metric system, because I'm not a, American retard, so something between 170 centimeters to 180 centimeters is the average height of a Copaginus, or Copaginus. So, yeah, so from their appearance, a person of modern Earth would recognize, um, you know, would identify them as being, specifically northeastern beings of northeastern Asia ethnicity, or ethnicity of northeastern Asia. Let's see. Uh, and their culture is actually very similar to uh, modern day Japanese and Korean culture, which is that they are in they are in many ways very reserved people, uh, at least formally speaking, and uh, in public forum or public venue, they are very reserved and composed. Of course, privately and when they relax, they get you can get very well uh, quite loud and exuberant, but in public they are tend to be very reserved. Uh, all right, and yeah, again, that's the thing about Kobaki is that their their home world, so to speak, is a huge artificial space island. Basically, a huge space station is their home world. So they are very much a space people. They're all of the colonies. Well, they have few colonies that are on actual planets, but even those planets do not actually have a naturally occurring or even terraformed atmosphere. Yeah, because the modern tribes do not actually have technology to terraform planets efficiently, at least. Uh, so yeah, so that's the Kobaki tribe. Next is Masadir tribe. And yeah, I should point out that the Heimo roleplay game was made by Finnish, well, essentially by Finnish social justice warriors. So obviously it's going to be kind of racist because social justice warriors are racist. They just that's how they are. So obviously the game is going to be slightly racist in many ways. Though obviously the way I run the game, I try to don't harm the racism of the game itself as much as possible. All right, so the next is Masadir tribe. Now the Masadir tribe is interesting because their homeworld is again. I can actually bring up the map. So their homeworld is Sahradan, or however you want to pronounce the name. The thing about that star system is that its asteroid belt, it has a large amount of uh, amadium in its asteroid belt that a particular star system has. And amadium being essentially the oil of the known space, it powering most of society is powered by amadium, and also it is necessary component in hyperdrives. So Saradan, the star system, having a large uh, uh, quantity of amadium available makes Saradan. Obviously, before the Amadium War, Saradan Masadir tribe pretty much could control other tribes through Amadium, because other tribes were dependent on many other tribes were quite significantly dependent on Amadium that the Masadir tribe was mining and refining. And actually, in the image of the Macedonian woman there, the garb she has on, the long, I suppose, hood or scarf or cloak, or shroud. It's the classical dress for a it was something that was very commonplace with Amadium miners during conglomerate era. And since the Masadir tribe descends from the Amadium miners of the asteroid belt of the star system, they they have taken the old miner, the old shroud meant for the miner as sort of their national garb for the tribe. Now let's see. The planet of Saradan is actually a desert planet. Uh, mm, in, let's see. Mm, Also, the planet itself, the planet of Saradan, does have large deposits of amatium, amadium. Uh, the planet is the home world of Masadir tribe is very large. Uh, mm, let's see. Yeah. So the Masadinus they descend from uh, uh, the practitioners of Masatsu religion, which is a religion that practices mysticism and asceticism, and the Masatsu pilgrims during the conglomerate era uh, um, people who made their living by, as I said, through um, offering their services as Amadium miners. And the ancestors of the modern day Macedonus people, or Macedini people, Macedini being the plural. Um, uh, they settled on Saradan when they discovered in the world uh, 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 a structure made by the a mysterious predecessor culture, called the First Temple. Uh, so that's why this group of religious pilgrims um, and the settled on the Sarvadhan world en masse in in during the conglomerate era. Now, let's see. Mm, Uh, let's see. The appearance of Macedini is since their home world of Saradan is a desert planet. They have they did during conglomerate era they did actually they chose to have a rather dark complexion, or well adapted to both doing mining work in the asteroid field as well as living on a planet that has very gets very much sunlight all everywhere on the planet. Uh, Important thing about the Masadir tribe is that the space that they claim to be, their territory, is actually borders the alien species called Reek, and the Reek Empire, uh, and the Massadir tribe actually has good relations with the Greek Empire, uh, and cooperation and exchange of knowledge between the tribe and the Greek dynasties is quite prolific. Uh, mm, and, again, the racism of the game developers, shows up in obvious the Massadir tribe being, essentially all the people of Middle East clumped into one ethnicity. Uh, and kind of, the whole parallel with them having the Massadir tribe having, massive resources, or they have just like modern day Saudi Arabia has, oil. The Massadir have Amadium, so that's uh, kind of deliberate parallel made by the game developers. And yeah, the Masatsu religion is actually it has its origins are in Islam, uh, though it's for instance the Masatsu religion doesn't have it doesn't have any of the holy scripture that modern day Islam has. Mostly, it can be essentially recognized by certain religious practices, and then again, the Muslim religion does it does have a monotheistic or it's a monotheistic pantheon, so to speak. Though again, monotheistic pantheon is kind of a stupid thing to say since it's just one god. But again, but the emphasis of the religion is kind of very much in mysticism and asceticism instead of uh, uh, instead of social engineering. So. Let's see. Mm. But yeah, the again the because the uniting factor of Masadir is of the Masadir tribe is the religion of Masatuf, rather than actually. So the tribe isn't again they are not ethnically as uniform as, for instance, Kopaki tribe is. Kopaki tribe is ethnically quite uniform, whereas and uh, Masadir tribe is pretty diverse, ethnically speaking, but still can be distinct. It still does has some mm, distinct ethnic features. For instance, their skin color is and eye color, for instance, because certain types of eye color go with certain type of eye that is again has some sort of certain protections against certain kinds of radiation. So yeah. Mm. Let's see. So that's the Massadir tribe. The next tribe is Merovian tribe. So let's see. Now the Merovian tribe is Well, again, this is again the racism of the game developers can be seen. So Merovingians are supposed to be uh, basically the French of the Tribes universe, and their home world is Cambrai Prime. Now, Cambrai Prime is actually, if let me see, yeah, Cambrai Prime was originally it was uh, the atmosphere was uh, pretty much toxic to uh, most life forms recognizable. Well, the most organic life forms, but the planet was terraformed through great effort during the conglomerate era. Uh, 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 During the previous millennium, the the previously toxic and rocky terrain of the planet has turned into luscious fields and forests. Uh, uh, Only 1/4 of the surface of the planet is actually ocean. But again, the planet has a lot of freshwater lakes that are quite large, and also the beneath the surface of the planet there are several uh, underground rivers, caverns that are filled with water. Uh, mm, uh, it's a whole network of uh, underground rivers um, beneath the surface, mm, subterranean rivers. Uh, and yeah, uh, again, the Merovian tribe, well, they actually are one of those tribes that are ethnically pretty uniform. They have uh, since their planet is actually doesn't get that much radiation. At least the surface of the planet doesn't get negative, harmful radiation that much. They have fairly pale skin. Uh, they have also their eyes are relatively pale colors, and their their hair colors range from uh, uh, different shades of black to uh, perfectly white hair, uh, and pretty much everything between, depending again on the eugenics of the individual. Uh, let's see. Oh, by the way, Masadir tribe is civilization level. Damn, I should remember to mention this. So civilization 4, Masadir tribe is civilization level 4, which is the advanced level, which is due to the fact that they have, a lot of amidium, which again uh, allows them to power their technology, so uh, they can have a very self-sustained and advanced society due to the large quantity of resources. The Merovian tribe, however, is civilization level 3, so they are pretty ordinary. They do have access to some medium uh, within their own colonies and territories, but they do still need to trade quite a bit with other tribes, beyond their own tribe. Uh, let's see. Uh, yeah. Let's see. Um, the Merovingians are, well, again, uh, they are sort of consider, at least they themselves consider themselves to be very intellectual, and well, we would actually modern day we would actually describe their society to be very Machiavellian. So the prince members of the prince caste, uh, deploy within their control of the society. They deploy very Machiavellian means. So. Uh, uh, significant thing to notice about the Merovingians is that currently within the campaign, uh, uh, the home world of the Merovingians is plagued by a pandemic of by a disease called the Red Death, uh, or Crimson Death, actually, maybe. Uh, it's a viral disease, uh, a viral in as in it's caused by a virus. Of course, it being a pandemic, it's also viral in that it's a pandemic. Um, and it's again, the tribe not being scientifically so advanced, being technologically very advanced, being of ordinary advancement level, they have a hard time combating the pandemic. So that's something to note about the tribe, is that, and the plague it has influenced their culture quite a bit. Uh, some would call their culture decadent, I suppose, in many ways. Uh, Even without the plague, but the plague has actually sort of brought the decadence of the culture into more, or maybe you could call it the culture kind of bohemian, or bohemian decadence is essentially the description for their culture. And yeah, mm, let's see. And yeah, a Merovingian individual is usually uh, very well. They are, you could say, quite. Um, well, they are sort of open and very, very passionate people in aggregate. obviously, again, individual. That's the general individual. Again, individuals being can be kind of out of the norm, but that's the norm for the Merovingian individual. And here again, the racism of the game developers. So basically, these are the Merovingians are essentially the French or the Spanish or Italian, essentially some sort of combination of those traits uh, is what the Merovingians are. Okay, let's see. The next thing is the Noachis tribe. Noachis tribe. Noach. Noachis. Noachis. Or Noachian tribe. So, again, the homeworld of the Noachis tribe is the world is called Noachis. And their history is kind of interesting. During the conglomerate era, the world of Noachis was known as the den of debauchery within the conglomeration of colonies. But and the Noachis is rare in that it is it's the only world among all the worlds inhabited by the tribes, or that belong to the tribes. It's the only world that actually had a Fargate in the star system. And when the Fargate of that system exploded in the collapse, it changed the orbit of the Noachis, of the planet of Noachis. And it also caused the axis of the planet to change. So that and also it caused other cataclysms on the planet. So the planet that used to be a very lush and vibrant with life became a desert planet. That let's see, what was it? Um, mm, yeah, so it was a garden planet with quite a bit, approximately, something like 60% of the surface. Well, maybe 50% of the surface of the planet was ocean. Uh, mm, mm, let's say, mm, yeah. The Noachians are called Noachians because they follow a, well, um, again, the unifying factor within the of the tribe is their religion, which is well, Noachianism, or actually the religion is can be called Noachian. Religion is the unifying religion, and the religion was founded by the current arch prince of the tribe, 400 years ago, was founded by the Pontiff Maxentius Pius de Lacrimas Virgo is the arch prince of the tribe, and is also the founder and prophet of the religion of Noachian. And the Noachian religion holds that uh, because the planet used to be a place of, debauchery and uh, so yeah, so the dogma of the Noachian religion is that because the world was so, and more important, the people of the world were so degenerate prior to the collapse. The collapse was brought by, was a punishment from God upon the people of Noachis to and also to become a test that that life of a Noachian, someone who lives on the planet, is born and raised and lives and dies on the planet. Their life is constant struggle because the planet is currently it's very inhabitable. It requires a lot of effort to live on the planet in the current era. So that struggle is the test of the worthiness of the person for, again, salvation in the next life, and so on and so forth, is the tenets of the faith, of the Noachian faith. So uh, and yeah, most again, the Noachians being a people of a desert planet, most of them are either their skin colors are from very tan skin color to very dark uh, skin colors, high, you know, have high levels of melanin in their skin. Uh, let's see. Yeah. Yeah. So a Noachian person is usually a normal Noachian person is uh, quite religious. Actually, the religion even has mm, well, since the religion has in the past century or two has developed, there have new denomination have arisen in the religion uh, that challenge, for instance, the authority of the Pontiff Maxentius Pius de Lacrimas Virgo. Mm, the arch prince of the tribe. They There's denominations and factions and, well, challenge his authority, and they rebel against the church of the Noachian church. Uh, the Noachian church has then obviously, in order to root out, heresy, they have, come up with, the institution of Inquisition and inquisitors. Uh, so, and it's this development of heresies has been going on for a little over 100 years, but obviously Amidium War, which was a significant uh, disaster in the history of the Noachian people. It accelerated the develop, the uh, emergence of new denominations, and what the Noachians most, or the, let's say, the true Noachians would call heresy. So yeah, so that's the Noachian tribe. And obviously the Noachian tribe is essentially, it's not so much the racism of the game developers showing up in this. It's more the social justice warrior atheism showing up, and because again the pontiff is obviously a patriarch and so on and so forth. So that's essentially what the Noachian tribe is all about. It's the religious nutters, religious zealotry, which apparently all religious thinking is, from the social justice warrior, the from the perspective of the social justice warrior atheist. All right, let's see. Next is the Saratogan tribe. Now, the Saratogan tribe are first of all, the Saratogan tribe are descendants from the what was it? First of all, their home world, Saratoga Primus, is one of those worlds that were actually discovered, uh, or was naturally Earth-like world, and the Saratoga tribe is descendant from the what was it called? What did I translate the name into? Uh, uh, the army of the conglomeration of colonies. Essentially, the army units uh, of the conglomeration. They banded together, and then they uh, discovered actually the discovered Saratoga Primus, and settled there as their, obviously them being military. They obviously first viewed the world as base, as home base, where from where to continue on, but eventually as the things developed, it became the home world of the culture of Saratoga, and and that being the background or the history of the Saratoga, being that they or everyone in the tribe is descendant of the military of the conglomeration of colonies. Uh, they the society is sort of actually highly militaristic society. Uh, you know, mm, sort of an individual of or in the tribe of Saratoga starts schooling at the age of 5, and uh, beside general education, they also get martial arts training and survival training already in school. Mm. Their school lasts for 10 years from age 5 to age 15. Uh, at the age of 15, they actually are, taken into actual military training then, which lasts another 10 years. And at the age of 25, a Saratogan person then can choose whether they want to go into civilian life or if they want to serve in the legions of the of in the legion of their own clan, because usually clans have their own legions. The only military unit, at least within my universe, within the campaign I'm running, the only military um, unit or military um, faction that is actually um, uh, include or is uh, inter clan organization uh, within Saratoga is the Black Brigade. All the other legions are actually clan. So clans have their own legions, but the tribe of Saratoga doesn't have uh, a legion of its own, except for the Black Brigade. Uh, of course, the uh, Grand Council of the tribe, who is the arch prince of the tribe, can obviously command. In certain situations, the uh, legions of a clan come to serve the greater tribe, but usually the legions are loyal and are obligated to serve their clan rather than the tribe. But in certain circumstances, for instance, in the Amadium War, the legions served the tribe more than they did serve their own clan. It's again kind of complicated. Uh, So yeah, and the military service, if at the age of 25, if the individual chooses to go into military service, the military service lasts for 15 years uh, until they can retire from the military, or they are retired from the military. Uh, and now let's see. But again, every member of Saratogan society does receive a military training. Mm, and even their, elementary school training has, martial arts and survival skills in the curriculum. Uh, let's see. Yeah. The Saratogan culture actually is, besides being militaristic, it's also, well, first of all, the civilization level of. Did I again? I no. Did I remember to mention that Noak is the civilization level 3, the ordinary level, uh, for spacefaring society, interstellar spacefarer. Uh, Saratoga is civilization level 5, which is highly developed, technologically highly developed society, and yeah. So obviously, actually, it's like at the age of 25, when person is fully educated, they usually don't actually go into military service. It's maybe like somewhere between 10 and 20% of people actually go into military service at the age of 25. Uh, Instead, they go into civilian life at that moment. At that point, get a higher education and, or get a training in a trade or something, and become, part of society, the fabric of society. And actually, the Saratogan tribe is known for having, well, the Saratogan tribe is sort of like or like the game developers obviously have had in mind sort of like a cross between, ancient Sparta and then and American culture, because again the Saratogan tribe does produce a lot of cultural, cultural artifacts, so to speak, art, uh, you know, uh, different kinds of art. So, uh, movies, plays, music, uh, paintings, statues, you know, develop. They have their culture is very, you know, prolific in the so-called liberal arts as well. Uh, Beside the militarism of the culture, they are also very, and obviously they are technologically very advanced society in many ways. For instance, damn nearly pretty much one of the pretty much every industrial colony that Saratoga has. The Let's see, by the way, Saratoga Prime, their home planet is home. Let's see, if memory serves, it's the home for about 6 billion people, and the entire tribe of Saratoga is 12 million people. 12 billion people make up the tribe of Saratoga, and yeah, and most people enjoy very, for instance, all the any colony that is actually industrial and, uh, let's say, self-reliant, usually has at least one. The planet has at least one space elevator. so then travel from the surface of the planet to actually space is accessible to damn near everyone on the planet. And obviously, Saratoga Primus itself has several space elevators. So again, they are very advanced society in many ways. And again, they are also known to have quite a few, producing very um, relatively great number of philosophers, which makes, again, their society is very enlightened in many ways. On the other hand, they also Sarathogans do have a tendency to have, well, first of all, they are the general Saratogan personality is that they are somewhat aggressive, not necessarily like physically violent or anything, but very um, they come on very strong. Uh, uh, and also they have obviously their culture being what it is, they have very large, they have very much a certain kind of contempt for weakness, uh, and them, well, the culture not being that well inoculated against gynocentrism. Obviously, the contempt for weakness is mostly against men who are perceived as being weak rather than women. Though there is some contempt for weak women, though again, what constitutes as being a weak woman is kind of different from what is considered to be a weak man. So anyway, but of course, with Saratoga, I have actually myself included the whole thing about the subculture of the male culture, which is a culture of men, meaning the culture doesn't have like almost has almost no women. Um, Meaning, uh, first of all, the men of the culture of the male culture are homosexual, pretty nearly exclusively homosexual. No attraction, sexual attraction to women at all, and also they use a method of artificial insemination involving sperm and stem cells, and then using artificial wombs to incubate their sons. So again, a couple of men they have actually they through the technology available to the male culture, they actually have children, sons. Well, they have sons that are biologically the son of both fathers, and obviously the son has two biological fathers and no biological mother at all. So that's an interesting uh, divergence from gynocentrism within the Saratogan culture is the subculture of the male culture. Obviously, the sisterhood of Ordo Vercinus, which is the authority of all reproduction within the tribes, obviously they obviously put up a lot of resistance to the male culture, uh, for obvious reasons. But obviously the male culture is actually the greatest source of art and industry and whatever. So again, uh, for instance, the Saratogan tribe actually has among themselves, among the clans of Saratoga, there is um, they have the Olympic Games every 4 years, Um, and within the Olympic Games, they actually have uh, there is the women compete with women, the men compete with men, and then there is the third uh, uh, series of competitions, which is male cultures compete with male cultures, because the men of male culture tend to be even uh, tend to be quite unbeatable even by the men of the mainstream culture of Saratoga. So uh, my phone. So that's an interesting subversion from gynocentrism within the Saratogan culture, but obviously the mainstream culture of Saratoga being so very, you know, again, it's very sort of traditional, which makes it obviously very gynocentric. All right, let's see. Yeah, so that's the Saratogan tribe, and then is the last tribe, which is the Zaongon tribe, or Zaongon people, and now obviously, again, I have to bring up the racism of the social justice warriors who developed the game. So obviously, the Zaong tribe is uh, uh, Southeast Asian people, and and Indo-Chinese people, essentially. Uh, the unifying factor for Zhao is actually again religion. They are the religion they is uh, uh, their home world, Mingzen, the Green Pearl, is the first colony of the Zhao Buddhists. Uh, the most of the planet's surface is actually ocean. Let's see, the equator of the planet and the poles of the planet have some land masses, but most of the planet is ocean. Uh, and most people of the Zhao is civilization level 4, and most of the people of on their home world on Mingchen live in it's kind of like floating cities, very much like Waterworld. Uh, if you've actually seen the movie, Mingchen, yeah. So again, and the thing that Zhao is actually known for, technology-wise, is biotech, uh, medicine, hygiene, which is actually within the tribes. Hygiene is actually a field of engineering, because hygiene using microbes for certain engineering projects is very commonplace. And also within spacefaring civilization, the microbiotic environment is important to optimize for the for people, and for instance, optimizing the entire microbiotic biosphere of an entire planet is kind of a huge engineering project. So hygiene is actually, and obviously also hygiene is about optimizing the microbiota of the human body as well, to have optimal uh, microbiome, or the so-called second genome to be the optimal for longevity and so on, and metabolizing things properly, and again other things with the body. So anyway, and obviously the Mingsen, the home world of the Zhang tribe, being a water world, essentially, they are very much known for their hydroponic, uh, you know, the farming on the planet, and also um, uh, the oceans have quite a bit, marine life. So fishing is a thing that is very uh, much a thing, and the at least Minsk itself has at least has three space elevators actually on the equator. That this the space elevators, all of them are in the ocean. Uh, they are yeah, they have an anchor in the ocean. They are not anchored to ground. Uh, and again, they Zhangwon people are somewhat reserved. Most of them being Zhao Buddhist, they have a very, how should I say, sort of relaxed attitudes about life. Um, uh, mm, they have their uh, a typical Zhangwon will have a lot of very formal daily routine that they uh, go through. Uh, mm. Also, Zhangwon are relatively short uh, compared to, for instance, Bauman, or even Gemitech people, or Calica, or uh, they are about similar to the Copachinos, in that Zhangwon are relatively short people. Um, uh, so let's see. Because the planet actually gets a lot of radiation from its star. Actually, it's probably a binary star system. So the skin colors of the Zhangwon people, instead, the Copachinos actually have, even though they are space people, they have actually, due to uh, and again with the Zhangwon and Copachinos, they have their some of their appearance are more culturally driven, and to create a more uniform appearance to the tribe rather than uh, actually the function of the appearance. But with Zaumon, they do actually have quite a bit darker skin because they even the planet itself gets quite a bit of radiation from the star. That it's good. Again, it's very much beneficial for the uh, uh, people to have a darker skin to protect them from the radiation from the stars of the system. Uh, hmm. Yeah. Was there anything else about the Zhao tribe? Yeah. Yeah, that's about the tribe of the Zhao. Yes. Yeah, their home world. So those are the 9 tribes of Haemot tribes. Uh, and yeah, these are the the people that are whose caste system is monitored by the Sisterhood of Ordo Verrucinus, and obviously each tribe is is a feudal caste system, so they have their princess and arch princess and servant castes and whatnot. Obviously, there are certain, for instance, Saratogan tribe being a somewhat socially enlightened society. There have some clans actually have something similar to human rights. Even uh, same with Saongo tribe, they have something similar to actually tribe-wide things similar to human rights. Let's see. Kemitek tribe, obviously, the Kemitek tribe actually does have uh, definitely has a it has uh, you know devices you could call human rights that are tribe-wide things. Anyway, so those are the 9 tribes of the known space. I hope that gives somewhat of an idea. And again, as I mentioned, the game developers are Finnish social justice warriors, from Finnish academia, you know, which is again very feminist academia. So obviously they have the racism of social justice warriors and intersectional feminism. So these tribes are somewhat, they reflect the racist view of that person, of the game developer, to some degree. Obviously, when I run the game, I try to get away from the obvious racism of that's in the and kind of again uh, the except for the tribes of Kobaki and Zaongo, most of the tribes, they don't have a uniform, and Galaka tribe. The Galaka, Kopaki, and Zango are the only tribes that have, somewhat uniform ethnic appearance. Though even the Galaka, their appearance is more about the functionality of their appearance. The color of the skin not being, just there for looks, but being there for function of, protecting from different forms of radiation available in space. So, and with Gemitech, again, for instance, Gemitech, their skin colors come from, for instance, the ones that actually are into the whole looking like a fantasy orc. Their skin colors are, from, some form of green to, actual black color. So that's, very uh, again with the Chemitex. Uh, so, but so basically, the tribes are, even though they are, somewhat ethnic lines, they are more on, cultural. They are drawn more on cultural lines than ethnic lines. And obviously, within the tribes, again, the clans have their own cultures. So, and again, clan within the known space being the equivalent of nation state in modern Earth. But yeah, so that's the 9 tribes. I hope you got some sort of grasp on what they are. Uh, I'm next video will be, I'll probably be making that tomorrow. Will be about the certain customs, and I might actually start making a video about the different alien species that are present in the are known about, major alien species, and then some minor alien species within the known space. But yeah, so that's that for now, and you'll see the next video when you see it. Bye.